there's a lot of talk that you guys are talking to Dexter Fowler. I'm not going to ask you specifically about players because I think I know you well enough to know that you're not going to answer specifically, which is fine. But what, as we sit here today, and you look at your roster, what do you need to be able to feel comfortable about this team's ability to win a division?
Well, I mean, I think we need, obviously, the same things we went into the offseason saying. We need more balance. We need a little more speed and athleticism. We need a little more depth. I do think depth is a unique and overlooked area of our roster. It gets back to the exact same things we talked about last offseason, which is when you don't have a wealth of talent at AAA, you need to be conscious of where the alternatives are if you have injuries and ensure that no one injury is going to just undermine a season. And so as we look at, the building our roster, versatility and depth has been, not just talent, but we want to add championship talent, but versatility and depth has been part of the equation. I think the crux of the decision-making for us as a baseball operations group is coming down to, in our remaining moves, do we, use one bolt on one player that is a good, very good player, if not, an elite player in the game, but very good player in the game, and that player can have a variety of names, 2 or 3 different names, be it a trade or a free agent, or do we offset that with, saying, hey, we're going to get a better backup catcher to ensure Russell Martin stays healthy all year. We're going to get better pieces in the bullpen than hoping we can kind of get lucky like we did last year and continue to adjust along the way. We are going to get, a good outfielder, but maybe not, an everyday outfielder, but complement that with guys that can platoon and play in various situations. And, we can't do both those things because we don't have that level of resources left, but we have to determine whether which one of those 2 directions we go. And so as we look at alternatives, and we're fluid, on both those things, it's a matter of, weighing those and determining what the best course is to build a winner. And that's really ultimately what it's all about.
Jed Hoyer made a point in an article I read about the Cubs, talking about how the Cubs have kind of taken a different approach where, it used to be young pitching was the currency of the realm. The Cubs' approach is kind of, we're going to load up in young position players and we'll spend our free agent money on pitchers who are 27, 28 after somebody else has drafted them, developed them, had them do their Tommy John thing, rehab them. Are we maybe seeing a swing towards young position players now as opposed to young pitchers, or is that too simplistic?
I think this, once you determine and see where the swings went, it's already gone, and it's too late to adjust to that. So if the Cubs did that, it's too late to follow them. We've got to kind of set our own course. What I would say is if you talk to Theo, who's Jed's boss, who I've talked to frequently, he would say one thing to you: young. That's what he would say to you. Go young.
Yeah.
Don't get old. And that's what when Theo, you go up to Theo and go, give me some good advice, Theo. Young, good. Old, bad. So that's what he said to me last year. So I think, again, that's the smartest guy in baseball. He's probably one of the greatest executives in the history of the game at this point. And I think there's some wisdom to that. It's not that established players, and this time of year we have an obsession with names, an obsession with established players. But it's important to keep your eye on what are you doing to get young talent? What are you doing to maintain balance in your roster? There are some things we can't deny that are already in place that we have to deal with. But, I think we're also conscious wherever possible, just like Ross did a phenomenal job last year when he got Francisco Liriano of, okay, we're going to get 2 young players back in addition to that. So every opportunity we can, we're also thinking about how do we balance, how do we continue to balance our roster out and ensure that, there's the tipping point is not one that's, a cliff and one that we can continue to kind of build from and get better.
I like the young, good, old, bad stuff. But some old is good, too, right? Like
balance.
Zobrist, Lackey, Lester, as long as you have the balance. Yeah,
you need to have, I remember interviewing Travis Fryman for manager a few years ago, and he said a great thing to me. He said, hey, Mark, he said, young players, they're going to be happy to be there. They're happy to be in the big leagues, The guys in the middle are going to be happy to be there, but they're going to want to make their money. And he goes, the veteran players just want to win. So yeah, you need to have that balance of guys that are there for different reasons, and you want to have, those players that are driven to win and win championships. And I think the veteran guys provide some wisdom. The right veteran guys like Kendrys Morales, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're generous and I saw this with Jason Giambi and the impact he had on the Indians in 2013. This guy, he hit the weightiest 200 I've ever seen in my life because his hits were incredibly impactful hits. But the amazing thing about him, he was so generous with his past experiences, what good and bad, and so willing to help a Jason Kipnis, develop, so willing to help, so many guys in that team get better. And so you need those guys that are absolutely willing to pass on their experiences and help teams get better. But you need to be careful about how many of those guys you have.